I can't tell you how much fun this is. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Westside Congregation in Rio Rancho. I am the Reverend Dr. Nancy Hitt, Consulting Minister for the congregation. Our service associate today is Laurel Anderson. And we are so glad you're all here. There are old faces, there are new faces, there are sometimes I visit my mother faces. This is great. So thank you all for taking the risk, whatever it is for you, and coming out. This is our first on-site service in 15 months. It is absolutely wonderful to be able to gather together again. So I need to tell you that there are supplies on the back table. You may help yourself to spare masks. There are gloves if you would like them. They are not required, but they are there if you would like them. There are alcohol wipes, there's hand gel, there's all kinds of stuff to keep us safe. Disinfecting wipes even. So please help yourself to whatever you need over the course of the service. We are, with the exception of those of us who are leading the service, we are masking indoors. If you are outdoors later, masks are optional. Sort it out among yourselves. For now, you just need to know that if you have already put your contribution to gifts of love and commitment in the lower basket, that's exactly where it belongs. We will not be passing an offering plate. And similarly, if you had joys and concerns for inclusion in today's service, the taller of the two baskets is labeled for that. If you meant to write them out at home and forgot, that's okay. There are little index cards on the table in the back that you can use the pens in your pew to write whatever you'd like on, and everything that's in that basket will be included in the service later on. I also need to let you know that our service today is being taped. It will be posted online to our website and on YouTube. So if you have a personal need to be outside of the picture frame, you should know that it's very narrowly focused, like right here. That's why this is where it is. And there's plenty of places that you can sit where you would not be ending up on the videotape. If anybody needs to move, feel free to do so. And otherwise, over the next couple of weeks, as we get more used to this, if you just let one of the greeters know, they'd be able to point you to a seat, which would be off camera. So any questions? All right, then I'm going to turn this over to Laurel, who will share our announcements and start our service with you.
Greetings to all of you here. It is exciting to be here again with you all. I love it. Our program today is entitled Flower Communion Reunion. It is based on Principle 3, the acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations, and Source 3, wisdom from the world's religions which inspire us in our ethical and spiritual life. We hope that our reunion here today inspires greater understanding of how these principles and sources bring us together. Today, we thank Bramcast Hecht for our animal ministry moment, Carol Eaglehart for our music, and Dana Sanford for keeping our sound system operative. We also thank all of you who decided to take the risk of joining us today, despite residual pandemic anxieties. Please make sure to share your comments and questions with us later. We want you to feel safe. Here are the announcements for today. The paper caper for Rio the dog is still on. Newspapers for her may be left in the bin on the patio outside the social hall door. Most of the books donated to our Little Free Library project have been stored on shelves in the conference room. If you have not yet had an opportunity to explore the Little Free Library at the entrance of our grounds, please do so after the service. It's amazing. It was designed and built by Michelle Poyani and installed by Michelle and Steve. Expect to hear a lot more about how we can finance more of these for the surrounding community in the near future. And yes, it has been used. used. There is now a bin for Storehouse West on the patio outside the social hall door. You may bring your donations of non-perishable food on any day of the week at any time and drop them off there. Our thanks to Melinda and Eric, who continue to transport our contributions every month during the pandemic. We are in need of a person or persons who would be willing to take partial responsibility for posting the service title on the signboard out front. Bram and Roxy have been doing this almost every week for years and need some relief. If you would be willing to take on the task, please let Reverend Nancy know that what your availability is so we can work out a schedule that suits everyone's needs. Our thanks to Bram and Roxy for their help with this. Our cleaning crew is also in need of help. Each week we need to dust and vacuum the sanctuary, clean the bathrooms, Swiffer our hard surface floors, and generally tidy up. If you would be willing to help with 1 week per month, please let Melinda know. You will not be working on that by yourself. The work is done in teams of at least 2 people. This is very important work. We cannot gather without regular cleaning. Our thanks to everyone who has helped clean the building for our service today, and to Melinda and Eric for keeping up with things during the pandemic too. Now please rise as you are able as we light our chalice together. May our chalice flame show us where we have been, inspire new beginnings, and illuminate our noble goals as we strive to live together in communities shaped by our sources and principles. Shalom and blessed be. Let's affirm our aspirations. Life is a gift. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this great gift. In the light of truth and in the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls grow into harmony with creation. Thus do we covenant with one another. Shalom. Carol will now lead us in the hymn, Spirit of Life, found at 123 in your hymnal.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the spurs of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots holding close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Thank you. Please be seated. We're going to take a moment now to center ourselves. So I invite you to settle back into your chair or pew, whatever you happen to be in. Be upright and yet relaxed, uncrossing your ankles, your knees, your wrists. Let the energy flow unimpeded through your body. Close your eyes if you are comfortable doing so. or choose a focal point to gaze at. Let your attention be focused on your breath, breathing in and out, deeply and fully. In and out. Relaxing your body, releasing tension. Let your mind go blank. Just fall into the rhythm of your breath, in and out, and in. And let your mind's eye conjure up an image of a circle made of people, of which you are a part. Your circle may be large or small. It may fluctuate in size and appearance. This is the community of your life. Observe your community. Are you resting or active? Or are you both? Are there people there from your past? Your present? Are there perhaps even people who are not known to you yet? Does your community engage in activity together? Do you dance, or sing, or march, or protest? Do you work or play together? Is there anyone missing from your community? Let the person you see to your right break off and lead your community in a spiral dance, knowing that this is the shape of life. Impress this image upon your mind as the spiral grows and outgrows your expectations. Know yourself to be a meaningful part of all that happens in this community. Hold that sense of meaning and purpose close to your heart as you return your attention to your breathing. Relax into that rhythm once again, and bring that sense of belonging with you as you return your attention to the here and now. Breathing slowly and deeply. In and out. And when you are ready, open your eyes. Shalom. We will be celebrating our joys and concerns together today a little bit differently. I am going to read aloud what you have put into our basket, and Laurel will light a candle for each one. To begin, I bring you greetings from Herb Zales, Carol McNatt, Tom Hughes, Linda Holke, Sally Fish, Ro Danklevic, Andrea Sutherland, and Rosie Emery, all of whom sent their best wishes for our first post-pandemic service, but were unable to attend themselves. for their encouragement, we light that one big candle of joy. And I have a joy. So people didn't sign stuff, so I'm just going to read what's written. My joy is that the Albuquerque Journal highlights my Juneteenth piece on its op-ed page on 6/4/21. However, it did misspell my last name. I'm going with this is Judy. They misspelled her last name, but that's okay. It's a joy. We have a joy, so happy that Sandy's surgery went well. She is 2 weeks out and doing really well with that. We have a concern from Melinda that her dad's heart is not able to be repaired. He has gone into hospice care. And she also has a joy that hospice opens up a lot of services like home health care, daily living assistance, and caregiver respite, all of which are very important. And from Roxy, we have a joy that Bram's pain pump is working well, to which I can only add hallelujah and amen. And a joy that is nameless, that simply reads, joy, getting back together. Apparently that was Bram, she just raised her hand. So those are the collected joys and concerns of our community. We will light one last single candle for all that still fills our hearts and minds in unspoken love. Laurel, don't go anywhere. We also have a red candle that we have been lighting for a number of months through the pandemic. We light the red candle to honor the lives of all of the victims of racial violence in our own country and around the world. May its light shine as a testimony to our commitment to racial justice, for human equality, and for the relief of oppression of every sort. Shalom and amen. And now I would like to introduce Bram, who will share our animal ministry moment with us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This golden retriever says, life has its ups and downs. Today the fillet, tomorrow the grizzle. Don't let the highs get you too giddy, or the lows pin you down. No matter what happens, know that every dog has his day. Now this dog is looking out the window. Time. Where did you go? Where have you been? Do you know how long you've been gone? 3 hours, or 15 minutes, or 6 months. The point is, I've been waiting at that door for 18 straight years. And every one of those 12 seconds just killed me.
At this point, I have a story for you. This is our moment for all ages, and the story for today is the story of the first Unitarian, because it was pre-Universalist, the first Unitarian flower communion. The story of our flower communion is a true story. It's a piece of UU history that we reenact each year. This year marks the 98th anniversary of the first flower communion. So the story of its origin goes like this. The flower communion service was created by Reverend Chopin, who founded the Unitarian Church in Czechoslovakia. He introduced this special service to that church on June 4th, 1923. For some time, he had felt the need for a powerful symbolic ritual that would bind his people together more closely. The format had to be one that would not alienate anyone who had left other religious traditions. The traditional Christian communion service with bread and wine was unacceptable to the members of his congregation because of their strong reaction against the Roman Catholic faith. So he turned to the native beauty of the countryside for elements of a communion which would be genuine to them. This service was the result. It was such a success that it was held yearly, just before the summer recess, and no, please don't get any ideas, we just got back, of his church. The flower communion was brought to the United States in 1940 and introduced to the members of our Cambridge, Massachusetts church by Dr. Chopin's wife, the Reverend Maya Chopin. The Czech-born Maya had met Norbert Chopin, again, I promise, in New York City while he was studying for his PhD and she was working as a librarian. It was at her urging that Norbert left the Baptist ministry and turned to Unitarianism. The Chopins returned to Czechoslovakia in 1921 and established the dynamic liberal church in Prague. Maya Chopin was ordained in 1926. It was during her tour of the United States that Maya introduced the flower communion, which had been developed in the Prague church at the Unitarian Church in Cambridge. Unfortunately, Maya was unable to return to Prague due to the outbreak of World War II, and it was not until the war was over that Norbert Chopin's death in a Nazi concentration camp was revealed. From this beginning, the service has spread to many of our Unitarian Universalist congregations and has been adapted along the way. People were asked to bring a flower of their choice, either from their own gardens or from the field or roadside. When they arrived at church, a large vase stood waiting in the vestibule, attended by 2 young members of their church school. Each person was asked to place their flower in the vase. This signified that it was by their own free will that they joined with the others. The vase that contained all the flowers was a symbol of the United Church Fellowship. The young attendants helped with the arrangement of the bouquet, and later they carried the vase up to the front of the auditorium and placed it on a table there. Dr. Chopin then said a prayer, after which he walked over and consecrated the flowers while the congregation stood. The 2 attendants then took the vase back out to the vestibule. After the service, as people left the church, they went to the vase and each took a flower from the vase that was different than the one that they had brought. The significance of the flower communion is that as no 2 flowers are alike, so no 2 people are alike, yet each has a contribution to make. Together, the different flowers form a beautiful bouquet. The common bouquet would not be the same without the unique addition of each individual flower, and so it is in our church community. It would not be the same without each and every one of us. This service is a statement of our community. By exchanging flowers, we show our willingness to walk together in our search for truth, disregarding all that might divide us. Each person takes home a flower brought by someone else, symbolizing our shared celebration in community. The communion of sharing is essential to a free people of a free religion. The flower communion, or ceremony, or festival, Norbert's own words are best translated as flower celebration, continues to engage UU congregations in celebrating both their individuality and our interdependent community. Our celebration creates a thing of beauty that includes everyone and offers a vivid visual image of UU communities seeking truth and justice. Later this morning, as you can see from the table in front of you, we will build our own arrangement from the flowers you have brought, and I will close with Reverend Chopin's prayer of consecration. We don't often consecrate anything in this congregation, But because this is a piece of our heritage, I think it is appropriate to do so, remembering that how people think has changed a lot in 98 years. And then after the service, I invite you to take home a different flower than any you may have brought. And if you didn't bring any, that's okay, because there's a huge big bunch that I got, not from the roadside, not from the garden, but from Smith's. And they all need to find a home. So after we create a visual image for ourselves of our community, I invite you to take more than one. Take a small nosegay home to enjoy in the coming week. Now at this point, I would like to shift gears to our gifts of love and commitment. And it's been a while since we've sung our customary song from You I Receive. It's at number 402, if you would like it. Laurel, can you come up back here so that the folks online later can see you and what we're doing? And just, there we go. Oh, we've got music. Okay, go for it. Oh wait, I have something to say.
Okay.
Thank you. That's what I want to say. Thank you for your gifts of love and commitment. This is really what keeps us going and enables us to continue to build a community that upholds our values. It connects us all to each other as we express in this song.
From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
Thank you. If you would turn now in the back of your hymnal to reading number 580. This is not set up as a responsive reading, but I invite you to read along silently as I read it aloud. I'm a firm believer in the multimedia approach because research shows that the more different ways we perceive the same thing, the bigger an impression it makes on us. So I invite you to read along, and I will read this aloud to us. It's titled, The Task of the Religious Community. The central task of the religious community is to unveil the bonds that bind each to all. There is connectedness, a relationship discovered amid the particulars of our own lives and the lives of others. Once felt, it inspires us to act for justice. It is the church that assures us that we are not struggling for justice on our own, but as members of a larger community. The religious community is essential, for alone our vision is too narrow to see all that must be seen, and our strength too limited to do all that must be done. Together, our vision widens and our strength is renewed. Shalom. I chose that because it just seemed appropriate on our first day back together in these pews to remind ourselves of what it is we're here for. In addition to the break from loneliness and the sense of community just in seeing people live and in the flesh, we're all here for another much larger purpose than that, and that summed it up nicely. So our reunion here today is an occasion of joy. It is deeply meaningful to reestablish our community and the particular relationships we enjoy within it. In addition to being a relief from the isolation and loneliness that protected us during the worst of the pandemic and then became a real problem in and of themselves, today offers us the silver lining in the otherwise very dark pandemic cloud. We get to start over. Not completely, of course. We are still a UU congregation. We still have the same principles and bylaws. We're still mostly the same people, another year older and hopefully wiser. The past year has forced us to reevaluate our priorities, to adapt to new stresses, and to create new ways of doing the things that are most important to us. Those are good survival skills. We're going to need them. Like any people who have been in extended exile, we are eager to establish a new normal, to build a new community. The ancient Israelites wandered in the desert for 40 years. I'm pretty sure that just one is enough for us. But, like them, the vision of the promised land as a place of freedom and justice and resources for all has sustained us as we waited for vaccines to be available, for death rates to drop, for potentially deadly infections to decrease. And it's happened. We're able to be here together today because those things are reliably in place. The world is not perfectly safe yet. It never was, and likely never will be, but we are free to redefine ourselves in a post-pandemic setting. Bearing in mind, of course, that in other areas of the world, the pandemic is still raging, and people are still struggling with having their lives redefined by a virus. During this past year, I want you to know that we did not do nothing. So today, as we start to re-envision our future together, I want to do three things. I want to help us remember what Westside has experienced and done in the past pandemic year. I want to help us see clearly where we are right now. And I want to help us hope and dream and create a healthy future together. So let's state the obvious first. We're all over a year older than we were the last time we gathered together. And may I say, you're all looking just wonderful. Some of us are a little bigger, some of us are a little smaller. There may be more wrinkles and silver hair among us now. But that's just the surface. You should know that things here at Westside did not stop this past year. Yes, the building was closed, our tenant was on hiatus. But here is what we did. We videotaped weekly services and posted them online. Talk about a learning curve. 3 people, Jimmy Stevens, Carol Eaglehart, and Steve Poyani, all learned how to tape and edit that tape. They got creative with music and inserting pictures and backdrops and video clips. I learned how to tolerate being filmed, how to write a different manuscript than what used to be called for, and how to work with puppets and decor that we could fit within the camera frame. We even had a guest speaker, too. Many of us learned how to cope with Zoom and became the stars of our own small screen. We got over our self-consciousness and our technological inadequacies, and we held board meetings, committee meetings, and even town hall and theology on tap meetings. I think our largest online meeting had 25 people in attendance at it, which I find downright amazing when you think about it. We also held special holiday services and offered a daily meditation from Advent through Solstice, Hanukkah, Christmas, Yule, up to Kwanzaa, and including Kwanzaa. We lit candles for all of them every day, and this was in addition to our regularly scheduled services. We also continued our Little Free Library project. Kathy Wright coordinated the donation of hundreds of books for the program. Michelle Poyani designed and built an amazing structure with a UU flame on top that sits out there in blazing glory at the entrance to our parking lot. It's stocked with books. There were 67 to begin with, and I know that because I counted them. And yes, as Laurel said earlier, it is being used, which is fantastic. We also celebrated World Labyrinth Day. Donna Johnston curated our labyrinths for the occasion. And then there were the repairs on the wood rot in our building that are underway, courtesy of the Kane family. Michael, Elliot, Jay, and seriously, I believe they have drafted cousin Jeremy into the work on our building that needs to be done out here. It's still a work in progress. And of course, the Paper Caper, our newspaper drive for Rio the dog, continued unabated. Her owner has sent her sincere thanks for all of your kindness in donating to the cause. And Storehouse West donations continued, now in drop-off bins that are outdoors and available 24/7. Our thanks again to Melinda and Eric who transport them monthly to Storehouse West. We even, in this past pandemic year, took on a new program, the Rio Rancho Feed the Kids Backpack Snack Program, which is, I gotta tell you, a mouthful to say. Try it 3 times fast. Sherry Nopke is overseeing communication and the stuff that comes with a new program. Dave Kuhn set up the necessary financial processes so that funds for the program will be carefully and properly routed and accounted for. In another month or so, you'll hear a lot more about that as the kids get ready to go back to school, which right now they're just glad to be out of for the summer. We also met and made a very nice connection with Reverend Summer Albayati, our UUA Pacific Western Region Congregational Life staff person. Yet another mouthful. I told her that for short, I just call her our resource person, which pretty much sums up her job for us in relation to national headquarters. She came to our last Theology on Tap session and genuinely enjoyed herself. She said to me in an email following that event that you are all lovely, and she can understand why I have stayed here. I think that's high praise. It's also a very good resource for us to have as a congregation in connection with our parent denomination. And on a more serious note, we also lost several members in 2020. The Reverend Stephen Finney, a former minister for this congregation, died, as did Robert Gardner, Lonnie Mraz, and Bobby Howell. Bobby's ashes are interred in our memorial garden under the tree outside the social hall door, and she has a headstone that I really think would please her. If you haven't had the opportunity or didn't even know that we had a memorial garden out there, please take a look when you get a chance. There are, I believe, 4 headstones at this point. Things happened in each of our individual lives this past year. We lost people we loved. Babies were born. People got engaged. People moved. And right here at Westside, a whole lot has happened too. It's important to realize that while things are definitely not the same, we carried on and we took care of people. In fact, every time I tried to list out what happened here this past year, I realized that I had left something out. A lot happened. Your continued financial contributions made sure that that kept happening. Our whole community needs to recognize and take credit for the fact that we kept on keeping on. Now I'm going to move in 1 second here and bring this down to the table that you can see in front of us.
Dad, I need to go to the bathroom.
Now in theory, I'm going to be able to see what I've written and not go off track. In practice, you're at my mercy. However, we are going to create our own arrangement for our present reality and the hope of our future. And we are going to start doing that by pouring some of this mixture, actually, of seashells and stones into the pitcher of water. This is going to be noisy. It'll probably splash. Don't get distressed. That should help ground the stems. And these, I chose to do in this way because, as you all know, I love a good metaphor. This is the foundation. This is our past in these stones, in the shells that come from the ocean from which all life originated, etc. So we're going to ground this arrangement of our current community in our past so that we have past, present, and future all mixed together here. Now, I'm also going to ask you to humor me. I don't mean to turn my back on you, but I sort of have no choice in order to get this stuff up here. And I need to pick this up. Okay. So, I want to discuss our present reality as we start to put this arrangement for our community together. Because we are sitting here on the edge of huge possibilities. Just stop and think about it for a minute. We're starting over, essentially from scratch, with a solid foundation, principles, bylaws, that structure's all the same. But we've all changed a little bit in the past year, one way or another. And now we are reconvening, and it's kind of like getting permission to have a do-over. We get to redefine who we are and how we want to be together and what we want to take on. So, you should know, our tenant is back on grounds and yoga classes are happening. And I'm going to be playing, and my apologies to Matt, who you should know, vacuumed the sanctuary this morning because I guarantee it's going to be a mess when I'm done. And I just realized that what I forgot to bring was the trash bag for the clippings. So, oh, Bram, thank you. Okay, the bucket will do. Let me just put that over here. I will try really hard, Matt, not to make too much of a mess. But sometimes, you know, when you're being creative and you're making something beautiful, mess is just part of the process. And so that's very real too. You should also know that our religious ed class met for the first time on site this morning in the conference room. And it was amazing to be sitting around the same table instead of looking at all those little squares on the screen. But it was wonderful at the same time. So we are beginning to be able to go back to business as usual. Our building has been cleaned. Oh, sorry. Okay. Okay. Does that still work? Okay, because I need to sort of be able to see what I'm doing here this way. So where was I? Yes, the building has been COVID cleaned. To your everlasting joy, you should find hand gel, soap, wipes, and spray disinfectant in every bathroom and the kitchen on the premises. No matter where you go, you should be very safe. And that is a real concern and a genuine need. And then, of course, all of the programs that I had mentioned as having been in the past, been in place during this past year, are still in place right now and ongoing. However, some things have changed. Our cleaning team, as you heard, is in desperate need of help. And yeah, I know that not a single one of you comes to church so you can clean the building. Even the people on the cleaning team are pretty sure that that's not the most important reason that they come to church. However, without that being done, we actually can't be here. We discovered even though there was nobody using the building for the most part this past year, the spiders, they take over. We had more webs that we cheerfully swept out into the wild. However, so cleaning team, the more people who volunteer, the less work there is for each person to do, and the happier we all are with that. Melinda is our point person for that group, and so you should let her know. You can let me know, and I'll do my best to get it to her, but seriously, she's your best option for that. On Sunday mornings, like today, when we return to having coffee and at some point refreshments, guess what? We need to clean up the kitchen. Bobby Howell used to do that every Sunday, and obviously she cannot do it now. So, we're going to need a person or people in rotation in whatever way you want. We need to set stuff up so it will work for us and keep our building running and these events going smoothly. Then there's our grounds. You all came in from the parking lot this morning, and I assume you noticed that they need periodic attention. There's a lot of weeds out there. So if you see a weed you don't like, pull it up. Feel free to just create a pile of weeds. And if you really don't like them, come back with a shovel and clippers and a rake and have at it. No one is going to stop you or get in your way. That's stuff that needs to be done here and now as part of our ongoing self-care to keep us together. Now, I wanted to call your attention to this particular flower. Well, here, for the camera, and for the rest of you, this is I have no idea what this is. It's got sort of deep indigo at the center, and a knobby, thistly little thing, and then these spiky, I guess they're petals? They're not all that much different from the leaves. But I wanted to use this as an example of just how different some things are from other things in the same genre. It's a flower. These things here are all flowers, just like we are all individuals. But I don't have another flower like this in this whole bunch of stuff. Not that any of you brought in, not that Smith's provided. It's just plain unique. And so I'm tucking it in pretty much in the center of things as a reminder that, yeah, it's all different and it's all good. We have currently a need for people to think about how they can serve in a number of contexts in our community. For example, the board, by next January, the Poyanis and Dana will have served their maximum terms allowed by our bylaws. They have served consecutive terms. They have to go off the board. Dave Kuhn is moving to Albuquerque. His apartment right now, he tells me, is 98% empty. And he will, at the end of his term in 2021 as treasurer, be moving down there and to the church in Albuquerque. So we will need a new treasurer. So that means we need a treasurer, and the treasurer is on the board. So we actually have 4 new people that we need in that capacity. We need to think about this really seriously, and people need to be willing to give it a go. It will be different. There is no absolute right or wrong way for the board to do its work. As long as you follow the bylaws, we're good. But it's not like there's a specific agenda where things must be done a certain way. Each board works out its own organic process for itself. So if you'd be willing to think about that, and yes, it is fair to think about who you think would be good at it and say, hey, you know what? Carol, I think you'd be fantastic at this. At which point, I don't know if Carol's going to answer you or not, but you know, you can nominate other people. I strongly suggest checking with them first before you do so in public. Because the idea is not to put anybody on the spot or make service painful in any way, but instead to find folks who are enthusiastic and willing. And those really, the willingness and the desire to be of help in this particular way is the biggest thing that's important. Our Endowment Committee, they are an elected group who oversees our 2 endowment funds. The endowment funds are managed by the denomination, and what the committee is responsible for is deciding how we as a congregation are going to use the interest on the capital in those funds. It's currently 1 member short. So while you're thinking about what you might be able to do to be helpful, I got to tell you, the Endowment Committee only meets 4 times a year. And it's a task-oriented, very important, and responsible kind of thing, but it's a simple sort of task. So maybe you could do that, maybe you know somebody else who could do that. But think about it. And then there's our Stewardship Committee, and right now in my head I can hear Andrea Sutherland, who is up in New Hampshire at her place there, like whispering in my ear, stewardship, stewardship, you know, because she's been saying this for months now. We do need at least one, and two would be lovely, people on stewardship. That's a volunteer position, and there's a lot to be done on stewardship. That lovely flyer you've gotten for the past couple of years about our financial needs and, you know, how to help people keep track of the best ways to give to the church and that kind of stuff. That's a busy group. It's a lot of fun, to be honest. As somebody who has to attend all the committee meetings, I can tell you that stewardship is fun. I mean, who'd have thought? Most of us don't really like talking about money or asking people for money, but we still have fun doing it because I think the purpose of raising money to support this congregation and the values that it stands for and its deeper meaning matters enough so that the work is worth it, and it is just plain fun. Besides which, it's some of the people that you're sitting with in these pews, and I'm sure you're all a barrel of fun, yeah? I mean, come on. Okay, and then, on a very serious note, our most important thing for 2021 concerning our current reality is that we are currently 2 months shy of sufficient funds for our operating expenses. This means that when October 31st closes out, it's not just the end of Halloween, it's the end of us. Until or unless we can figure out how to fund November and December of this calendar year. Now, having said that, you know, it simply means that yes, we have money in our endowment funds, and we have funds that are set aside, some in restricted funds that can't be used for anything other than what they're set aside for, some that have been set aside and voted on for particular purposes that aren't quite as restricted as the others, but our budget for operating costs will be at zero, which means we will not be able to pay our mortgage, our lights, our water, or my salary or Priscilla's. That's pretty serious. So I hope you can see that there's a lot that we need to do in the here and now. Now, you can indulge in a brief moment of panic, especially over not having enough money to see out the calendar year. However, keep it brief. There is no need for any kind of huge chaotic eruption or panic attack here. These are all things that we can take care of. Think about what you are willing and able to do as we get back together to recreate our community. Now, that includes new projects and causes too, but I'm going to put them in the last bit when I want to talk about our future. For here and now, this is where we're at. We've got a lot on our plate. We also have a lot of resources, a lot of abilities, and a huge desire to come together and make our current reality something that is workable and creative and just plain good for us and for the larger community around us. So I'm going to move now a little bit into the future. And we'll put some more flowers in here. Because our future is up to us to create. My apologies, I can't seem to hit this thing. And the future can literally, seriously, like it's wide open. It could be a lot like our past. Not sure how to advise that. Frankly, I think we need to get used to the idea that the past is literally past. Let it go. We need to stop trying to recreate what used to work 10 years ago. I don't know about you, but I know I've changed. I think we've all changed. The world around us has changed and is changing, sometimes so rapidly, it's really hard to keep up with. So going back to the good old days isn't going to work as far as creating a bright future is concerned. However, we share 7 common principles. They're on those rainbow bookmarkers in your pews if you want to check them. And we all want to change the world. I know this. We don't just come here for ourselves. everybody is forever talking about social justice issues and what can we do about this and how can we support that. We want to change the world so that it lines up with those principles. Now, I don't know what the world would look like if it was in alignment with the UU7 principles. Nobody does. The beauty of the principles is that there is an infinite number of ways to act on them. So basically, when it comes to the future, let's get cracking. I mean, come on people, we've got stuff to do that we've wanted to do for a long time. Here's the thing, we need to figure out what West Side means to us, individually and as a community. And as you probably found out, during our last Theology on Tap meeting, when we were talking about how you came to be here, what made you stay, all that kind of stuff, there are lots of different reasons why people are here. I can tell you, I came here the first time, no offense, but not for you folks. It was during the time when St. Paul's United Church of Christ was renting our sanctuary, and I came here for them because I was doing some educational stuff with them. And they finished their service, and there was only a brief period of time before you folks held yours. And I'm nosy. And so I figured, well, I wonder what the Unitarians are up to. So I stayed right there. See Judy, where she's sitting? I was like right there beside her. And Laurel sat down beside me, and the rest is history. Except I have to give passing credit or blame, you choose which, to Carol, who somehow got nominated by the then board to approach me and ask me if I'd be willing to serve as your consulting minister. So Carol came and said to me, what do you say we go out to coffee? So we did. We went down to Flying Star. I had a great time. Of course, the crazy woman asked me if I wanted to be your minister, and I thought it was the biggest joke I'd ever heard, and I just laughed. Carol was very gracious. She didn't push it. So then she took me out to lunch. I had a great time. Lunch was fantastic. And she asked me again, and I thought, what is wrong with this woman? You know, why do you want me? I'm a Baptist, for pity's sake. She didn't push it. She asked me out for lunch a third time. And by the time she got to, so, have you given any thought to being our consulting minister? I know that my jaw hit my teacup, and I said, oh my God, you're serious. I am so sorry. I had no idea. I seriously thought it was a joke. And here I am, the biggest joke you've ever had. But my point is simply that we all came in different ways and for different reasons. And as Summer Albiati pointed out, you're all lovely. And so, you know, it's perfectly understandable why I stayed. Of course, why you kept me is another old question for you folks to answer, but we'll get to that another day, another time. How are we doing with our flowers here? I have just a couple that I need to fit in, and then I think we're going to call this done because I'm not so concerned about being a community with Smiths. But I chose yellow for our table covering, and Laurel and I both wore it because yellow is a color of joy. And today is an occasion of joy for all of us as we're back together here after such a prolonged absence. And so we'll tuck these in. And I don't know really who brought what, so I have some ideas. Oh, okay, and whoever brought the thorns, we need to chat. However, seriously, this is my favorite color, rose, for whatever that's worth, so the thorns are worth it. And we have some herbal greenery. Now, I have to tell you that I've been doing this, and of course I can see it from one perspective and you can see it from another. And that's probably an important point about community as well. Let's just go to the top of this. So, and then I have a couple of other little ones to put in. And this is going right in the spout. There. And we will take these Ooh, black-eyed Susans, I didn't see those earlier. There we go. Ta-da! All right, so, hold on just 1 second. I don't want anything to die here, even if we're not using it. So we'll put this down. Chicken stems. So here we are. I don't know. Oh wow, the sides are really different. You never know what you're going to have to work with or how it's going to turn out when it comes to flowers and or when it comes to community. But clearly, even a hodgepodge of different things, of all sizes, shapes, colors, etc., make for beautiful representation of who we are. So, what I would like to do now is say one thing and then quickly move to the end of our service because I really had a hard time figuring out time for today's service. We haven't been able to sing in 15 months, and it takes time. And I don't want to not do that today, and I also don't want to hold you hostage. However, I do need to address one thing. I have been asked if the state of our finances means we need to close. Is this an omen that we're not funded for the last 2 months? Here's what I want to say to that. No, it isn't, unless you want to make it one. I see a community that has what it takes to rise like a phoenix from the dust of 2020 and grow into something new and different and very good. But what matters is not what I think, it's what you all think. So it's up to you. This is us, this arrangement. Some of it's gangly, some of it's compact. We've got every color in the rainbow just about. Some has flowers, some does not. It's just greenery. As I said, all different shapes and sizes. Depending on where you're sitting, it's going to look different to Dee than it does to Dave because you're looking at it from opposite sides of the room. What I can see along with Laurel now is different from what Bram and Roxy can see in the back. That's the nature of genuine community. It does not mean clones or automatons or surrendering your individuality at all. It does mean working in harmony with all of the other crazy little flowers to build a beautiful community that works. I hope that's what you see when you look at this also. Now, I'm going to ask you to stand, and you might as well pick up your hymnal and open it to number 318 at the same time, because as soon as I'm finished with this prayer, we're going to sing Spirit of Life.
No.
What? No, we would be one, sorry. Yeah, I'm looking at the wrong thing here. We're going to sit, but I want us for just a moment to sort of take a deep breath and look at this visual representation of ourselves, our community, and listen with your heart, even if the words would not be ones you choose. These are the words that Reverend Norbert Chopin used at his flower celebration. Infinite Spirit of life, we ask thy blessing on these, thy messengers of fellowship and love. May they remind us, amid diversities of knowledge and of gifts, to be one in desire and affection and devotion to thy holy will. May they also remind us of the value of comradeship, of doing and sharing alike. May we cherish friendship as one of thy most precious gifts. May we not let awareness of another's talents discourage us or sully our relationship, but may we realize that whatever we can do, great or small, the efforts of all of us are needed to do thy work in this world. Shalom. And that's for the flowers and the people. Well, please remain standing, and Carol will lead us in the music. If we had more time than the clock allows, I would be inviting you to respond. Instead, I'm going to suggest that as you leave the sanctuary, find somebody to sit at a table with. There are, I think, 4 tables in the social hall with several chairs at each one. There are 2 other tables outside on the patio, and there are chairs there as well. So please have some conversation about what you've seen, what you've heard, what it felt like to be here, to be masked. Did you feel safe? Can we fix that in some way that's, better for everybody? There are lots of things to talk about, so please do that. And now Laurel's going to come over and extinguish our chalice. I invite you to join me in the words that are printed in your bulletin. And I haven't gotten to say that for 15 months. Extinguished from sight, our chalice flame still glows within our hearts, moving us to deeper community and service to our shared UU values. May our reunion support us on our way to building a healthy people and planet. Shalom and amen. May you know yourself to be a meaningful part of this community and of the larger world community. Your life matters. May you spend it in pursuit of that which truly matters to you. Go out and change the world. Shalom and blessed be. And please remember to undo this arrangement and take some flowers home with you. Thank you.